Welcome to another edition of From the Press Box, heard every Monday here from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. on 90.3 WHPC, streaming at nccradio.org, and later on this will be a podcast on Spotify, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, and all the rest. My name is Rob Leonard, and joining me, of course, is my co-host, and yes, my brother, award-winning sports writer, Tim Leonard. Good morning, brother. How are you?
Good morning, brother. I'm outstanding. How about yourself?
I'm, I woke up at like 5:30 this morning, and this happens like the last 5 weeks where I wake up so early that I'm afraid I'm going to fall back asleep like at 8:15, and that's actually what happened today. I fell asleep for about 10 minutes, and I woke up and I had MSNBC on, and I see not Hallie Jackson, what's the other one? Who does?
I have no idea, brother. Don't know.
Well, whoever does the 5 o'clock show, she was on at 8:30, and I'm thinking, well, did Joe go away for the end of the show or something? I know Mika and isn't on today, so I'm like, okay. So anyway, lots of things happening in sports as they do every week, and we try to look back in the week and see what's going on and what's happening. Let's start off, brother, with the big thing. NCAA men's basketball. The finals are tonight, 9:20 in the evening.
Late game.
But they do it every year. I mean, I know why they do it.
I understand why. Because of the West Coast, and it's meant to be prime time viewing. I get it, but you're starting the game at 9 o'clock at night. I don't like that. It'll
end at about probably with extra commercials, probably at 12. Yeah, I wish. Haven't been when we used to go to Dad's in Palm Springs, and you love the fact that you're watching the games much earlier. But if it's an hour earlier, does it really matter? I mean, if it was on at 6:20 or 5:20 instead of 6:20 Pacific time, is it changing the way you watch the game? No. I mean, there is a major difference for the East Coast to see a game starting at 9:20. And then try to watch the whole thing. I mean, exactly. Not everyone's going to wake up or fall asleep. Not everyone's going to stay awake for the game. And that's and it's not just NCAA's; it's all of them. I don't get it sometimes.
All I know is this, brother, and I'm going to be an arrogant New Yorker for a moment here, which is something I rarely am. But I don't care about the West Coast. If there's a game on, watch it. And right. If it means you got to leave work early, fine, do it. But don't sit here and make me have to wait until midnight to find out who's going to win the national championship, and I got to get up at 6 o'clock the next morning to get to work. All right, because now you're impacting people's livelihoods and making the game a choice for them. Do they go to sleep at 11 before the game is over because they got to get up at 6, or are they going to be a zombie at work the next day because they decided to watch the national championship game?
And also, brother, the other thing, and as a journalist, a sports journalist that you are, if you were covering the game, it starts at 9:20.
No chance of hitting deadline. None.
Deadline's 11 o'clock.
Basically,
if not earlier. You're not getting that article into the next day's paper. So you're going to get a preview story or a backstory or something.
Some sort of feature,
you're not going to get the game story, which is what you want to read. Right. Another thing,
you'll get the dreaded sentence from the desk when you call in is, you'll be writing the gamer for the website.
Yeah.
Those are the worst words you ever want to hear as a journalist.
Of course. So, I don't understand. I know this has been like a big thing for Phil Mushnick for years about late games on the East Coast, but he's not the only one who's talked about it. To me, you start the game at 8 o'clock, pure prime time for the East Coast. Yeah, that's what you do. You worry about your first half, your watchers, which would be the East Coast, and then the West Coast team will. It's like watching a playoff game for the baseball in the first round or the football. They have day games. Go for it. The NCAA.
It's rare. It's rare. Day games are a rare thing now because sports has become primetime entertainment. That's
sure,
pro
but some
and college.
games in like the wild card games and stuff, or sometimes in the daytime in the playoffs.
Yeah, but that's on Sundays. I mean,
I know, but
Sunday's a different day. I mean, Sunday you can't count it. If the NCAA is going to have its championship game on a Monday night, then they need to accommodate. And by accommodate, I don't mean start it late enough so that the West Coast can watch the game. It means you have to make sure that your East Coast viewers aren't going to be penalized and aren't going to have to stay up until midnight to find out who's going to win your national championship. Right. It should be easy. That should be an easy decision. And instead, they seem to screw it up every year.
Yeah, I mean, I give, like the NFL, they start the game, now it's 6:30 instead of 6:20 on a Sunday. So by the time 10 o'clock rolls around, the game's basically over. Mind you, it's football. It's a little bit longer. College basketball is a little bit shorter. But I'm not saying start at 6:20 or 6:30, but start at 8 o'clock. And
right. I mean, basically, I don't mean to cut you off, brother. But basically, college basketball is a 2-hour window.
Right.
NFL is basically a 3-hour, maybe a 3-hour and 10-minute window. So you kind of know what your time schedule is going to be. So that's the simple part. So start the game accordingly. That's it. Like I said, it should be a simple thing to do, but it's not. I don't know why.
Anyway, a great weekend though for men's basketball for the NCAA. Gonzaga, they barely made it in, brother. This is the team of the year for NCAA men's basketball, and they barely made it in over UCLA. If UCLA had won, and they could have, this would have been one of the great upsets, and it would have been one of the great stories going into tonight's game. But Gonzaga, I call them Gonzaga.
I don't know why, brother.
I don't know either. Anyway, they beat UCLA 93-90 on a last-second shot. The type you like to see in games, but it's always disappointing for the team who loses. It's it was too bad. I was rooting for UCLA.
I was not, brother.
I know you weren't,
because that Gonzaga victory means that I won my NCAA pool. Even before the final is played, I am the winner. So glory and victory are mine. I was very happy that Gonzaga won that game, especially because, and I've been saying this for weeks, that I had Houston beating Baylor in the other semifinal, and I've been saying for weeks that I regretted that pick because Baylor is a monster. Now, right. What I think is going to happen tonight, here's why, another reason why I'm glad that UCLA didn't win, is because Baylor would have destroyed UCLA. And
but if they're upsetting everyone along the way, brother, how can you say that they're not like a chosen team?
Yeah, Baylor's good. I wouldn't be surprised if Baylor wins tonight. That's how good Baylor is. Now, Gonzaga is fantastic. They did not play their best game, obviously, against UCLA. Allowing UCLA to score 90 points against them, I was stunned by that. I didn't think UCLA was going to get more than 60 or 70 points in that game. So Gonzaga needs to tighten up its defense. They really need to play a better game tonight. Otherwise, they aren't going to have that magical 0 in the right column of their record when tonight is over. Let's face facts. Gonzaga is a great team, possibly a legendary team.
Right.
If they win tonight, they're a legendary team. They go down as one of the best teams in college basketball history. There's no two ways around that. If you finish your season undefeated as a national champion, you are in the conversation for best team ever. Now, obviously, some of those UCLA teams of John Wooden can say that they were the best teams.
Which I would agree with.
You'd have a hard time arguing against that. But Gonzaga needs to play better than they played against UCLA to make that happen. You shouldn't. Jalen Suggs hit that shot. It was about a 30-footer, running 30-footer, which reminded me and probably many others of Tyus Edney going end to end back in the day. In fact, that Tyus Edney that won me another tournament back in the day when I was back at the Troy record. But going coast to coast in the last 4.5 seconds of the game, and he hit a shot to win that game for UCLA. So this 30 years later, we got the payback, or more than 30 years. But Jalen Suggs making a running 3-pointer from about 30 feet, banks it in, and immediately does what he's been waiting to do for years, is run to the table and do a Kobe and jump up on the table and celebrate his success. And said he wanted to do a Kobe, do a D Wade. Some of these guys who have jumped up. I was worried about the table. When you put that many athletes on a table, tables collapse.
Yeah, well, also
tables aren't the strongest things in the world, brother.
You know what? What happens if you jump up there and you sprain your ankle or something?
That's the other thing. If I'm a coach, I don't want my players doing all that stuff. When players do all this, like jumping up in the air and chest bump and stuff like that, you'd be surprised how many times something happens when you land and you screw up your knee or something, or that it happens. And it happens enough where I would tell my athletes, don't do it. Because, it's just a freak accident, but freak accidents happen. And they've happened to kickers in the NFL. They've happened to soccer players. They've happened to basketball players. It's something that has happened enough where if I'm a coach, I'm telling my player, look, celebrate all you want, but just stop jumping up and down and doing crazy stuff where you could hurt yourself. But that being said, it was a moment worth celebrating. That shot, apparently Suggs does that a lot. Mark Few, the Gonzaga coach, said that. He says he does, they practice these last second scenarios, and he says Suggs makes a lot of those shots. Now, a 30-footer these days isn't really much. Steph Curry makes them all the time. James Harden makes shots from that distance. If you watch the NBA All-Star game, a lot of guys were taking shots from half court and making them. Russell Westbrook took a few. So, 30, 40-footers these days aren't the crazy kind of chucks that they were 10 years ago. Guys line those shots up. But it just, it looked like Papa shot. Hit the backboard, go in, thank you very much, game over, okay, let's go celebrate. So it was a pretty stunning ending to what really was an outstanding game. And a lot of people were after the game calling it one of the greatest games they've ever seen, which probably was true. I don't want to sit here and say greatest because, man, there's been a lot of great NCAA tournament games in history. But that game certainly was the memorable game of this tournament. And we'll see what happens tonight, but chances are that's going to be the most memorable game of this tournament.
Yeah, I agree. And, sometimes, as we know in other sports, it's the semifinals that has the best games, or like in the NFL, the league conference championship is always sometimes better than the Super Bowl. So
true.
Anyway,
if you remember, brother, 1980 U.S. Olympic hockey team, that quote unquote semifinal game against the Soviet Union, and they still had to go and beat was it Finland or Sweden? I forget. I said Finland.
Sweden, I think it was.
I think it was Finland. I don't know. But you're right. They still had to win a game, and right. That everybody remembers the Russia game, but they still had to go win a game. So does Gonzaga, or so does Baylor, one or the other.
And Baylor beat up on Houston, and
that game was ugly. It was ugly early. It was. I was surprised because Houston is a good team, but that game showed us how good Baylor is, and that's. I was a believer before that, but man, Baylor was good in that game. Holy cow! They just dismantled Houston. And I don't think anybody expected that. But that sets us up, brother, for a game that was supposed to happen earlier this season. Baylor and Gonzaga were supposed to play, but the game got canceled because of COVID-19. So it would have given us, I think, a good barometer for what we might see tonight, but Maybe as it turns out, it's for the best that we only get this game once this season, as opposed to it being a repeat of whatever we would have seen a couple of months ago.
Yeah, and also, Gonzaga's played so well through the rest of the season, so I think that, if that game had happened, it would take away from, I think, what we're going to see tonight. I think it's going to be a great game. And who knows, maybe Gonzaga would have lost to Baylor. We wouldn't have this run.
It's entirely possible, and then then the storyline would be, well, what if Gonzaga hadn't lost to Baylor?
Right.
Like that's what something like that would have developed for this storyline. But that's or will Gonzaga avenge their only loss of the season? that sort of a thing. But that's where we are for right now. I mean, like I said, Baylor is a really good team. Don't sleep on Baylor. That's a good team with a lot of guys on that roster who are going to the NBA. So and on Gonzaga's side, we got Suggs, who is a phenomenal point guard, even though he's just a freshman. The kid is unbelievably skilled. And the kid Timmy with the weird facial hair, and Gonzaga's got a lot of players, and they got a lot of bigs. And the underrated part of their game is they really do play good defense, which is why like I said before, I was surprised that UCLA put 90 up on them. They've been winning games by double digits. They don't just win. They really beat up opponents. And for UCLA to keep that game close and to score 90 points was a real shocker to me.
Yeah, I thought so too. Also, last night was the NCAA Women's Championship in San Antonio. And we actually watched the game with our sister Suzanne, which might have been the first time ever we've watched an NCAA championship game with our sister. Of course, our sister Suzanne did play some high school basketball at Alfred G. Berner High School in Massapequa. She also played field hockey also. So it was fun watching the game.
County field hockey player, brother.
That's right. It was also fun to watch the game with Suzanne, because she was remembering her basketball skills, and she's like complaining about some bad passing and some,
about some bad shooting.
Yeah, well, there was some of that too. Sadly, Arizona lost to Stanford, and there was 5 seconds left, and Ari McDonald, who the people at ESPN were focusing on all night, her family at least, and her, she was triple teamed for the final shot. And when you watch the play over again, you realize that no one was moving for her.
It was a bad play.
And so you're allowed to triple team someone if the other players aren't going to move. They say, well, why waste our 5 seconds? Let's cover the person who has the ball. And that's exactly what happened.
Right. It was almost like an NFL, going like a full on blitz.
Yeah.
Greg Williams would have loved that last play, the former fired defensive coordinator of the Jets, because they sent 3 players at McDonald, and she couldn't do anything. She had to work just to get the inbounds, and by the time she got the ball, turned to face the basket, that's already a second gone. And when you only have 6 seconds, you don't have a lot of time. You have to think that each dribble is almost a second. So she dribbled, she turned, there's 3 players in her face. None of her teammates are moving to the basket. Nobody's coming over to set a pick. She's got to work just to try to get a shot off. And it's like, Arizona coach, what are you doing? You got to put people in there. You got to try to help free her up. But when you have 3 front court players, one standing under the basket and the other 2 standing almost in the corners, what do you have? Those 2 players in the corner aren't doing anything. So you might as well be playing 3 against 5. So put those players in the corner, have them set picks, have them move bodies, have them, try to free up your player, your best player that Stanford knew was getting the ball. So you either have to let her get the ball or put it in somebody else's hands and try a pass and make your best player the decoy. But I just thought the play was horrendous because everybody knew that McDonald was getting the ball. They sent 3 players after her. I couldn't even believe her shot hit the rim. That was credit to her, but that shot was never going in.
I was shocked. You know what I was expecting, though? I was expecting like a Michael Jordan pass. Remember the game where he passed the ball? Everyone said he's going to shoot, and then he passes the ball. Bill Wennington, who's under the basket, and he gets it. And then Wennington said, "Yeah, myself and Jordan, we scored 66 points together." Meanwhile, he scored 2, and Jordan scored 64. That's what I was expecting. Maybe some sort of like under the net. Under the basket type of pass, and then getting a nice layup, but they didn't do that. It was too bad. It wasn't a bad game at all. ESPN does a good job with the women's tournament, just like they should. And I had no problem with the game. Rebecca Lobo was calling the game. Nice to see her doing some stuff.
And the overly boisterous Ryan Rucco.
Yeah, well,
didn't like his call, but
whatever.
Anyway, let's move on.
Anyway, I want to talk about, brother, the Major League Baseball All-Star Game has been moved, or will be moved, from Atlanta. This past week, Major League Baseball decided since Georgia passed these really kind of restrictive voter...
Just voting laws. Yeah, voting laws, brother.
Yeah, okay. Well, I was going to call it something else. And, they decided, well, after this passing of the law, we're going to pull out our All-Star game. Some people have been for this. I really haven't been, in the sense that, people like Stacey Abrams, who really helped get 2 Democratic senators elected in the state last year, was actually for not banning the All-Star game from Atlanta. And I consider her pretty, in touch with what's going on in the state of Georgia, since she sort of led the Democrats to getting those 2 seats. But other people have said otherwise. So, and I also feel bad in the sense that this year they were going, because he just died, Henry Aaron was going to get a nice tribute in his hometown of Atlanta, where he played for many years. So that will obviously still happen, but it'll be in another city, and maybe not as appreciated. It'll be different because it's in another city.
Right.
I personally probably would not have wanted moved, because I think it continues to shine the light on this bad law. But then again, the law is not as close to New York's law, but it's closer than people think. New York doesn't have as many early voting as everyone else. So I was wondering what you thought about this, brother.
Well, I mean, I think it's a good decision, just based on the fact that it brings to light that decisions have consequences. And for all the people who are sitting here moaning about, well, baseball shouldn't get involved in politics, and, sports should stay in their lane. And, well, you know what? When you pass a law that is suppressive and oppressive in nature, and if you don't expect some sort of pushback from many different areas of society, then you're either ignorant or you're naive. And for the people of Georgia and the right-wing faction of this country to just expect nothing to happen when Georgia is actively seeking to prevent people from voting, yeah, that's a problem. The right to vote is our most basic right.
Right, but do you think that, and what Stacey Abrams was saying is, by having the game there, and obviously, it's what, in July, right, you're going to keep the focus on the fact that this law has passed. And then personally, I think the law is going to have to go to the Supreme Court eventually. It's going to go through the court system to change or to get rid of it, because there's a lot of things about it that which isn't fair. But do you think that if by having the game there and maybe players talking about it, during the All-Star break or whatever, that maybe the focus continues to, because the law is passed. It's not going to get changed. As a matter of fact, they're digging their heels in even more.
It can get changed. And
oh, sure. I have no problems with that when it does.
Hopefully this is the first step in getting it changed, because it really is restrictive. I mean, and it goes back to a number of issues that we have with voting laws in this country. And also the fact that Republicans have more than 200 bills currently waiting to be looked at that pretty much all suppress votes. If my biggest problem is this, brother. First of all, I think Election Day in this country should be a national holiday. All right, let's start there, because when you have the vote on a Tuesday, millions of people can't vote because they have to work.
Right.
So let's either make it on a weekend, or let's just make it a national holiday so people don't have the obligation of work getting in the way of them going to the polls.
Brother, you and I both know that not everyone has the day off. We work in a business. I work in television, radio. You were a journalist for many years. You worked on many holidays, as you know. I've worked on many holidays, as I know. So, just to say it's going to be a holiday, personally, I'd like to see it more on the weekend, maybe have it over 2 days or something, but that's a whole other thing.
But that's a big part of the problem. And another part of this law is that it closes voting stations earlier. So if you're working on a Tuesday and you can't get out early enough to vote, when are you supposed to vote? That's right. The restrictive part. People say, "Oh, well, you could just go vote." People, the ignorance that people are showing to this law. First of all, especially in minority communities, a lot of people had to wait 6, 7, 8 hours in line to vote. You know how long I had to wait to vote in the last election? 3 minutes.
Yeah, same with me. I walked in at 8 o'clock or maybe around 8 o'clock. You're in and out. But that's Long Island. I mean, I give Long Island credit.
But and New York City is the same. But I'm saying not everybody has that advantage.
Right.
And if you have to stand in line all day just to vote, well, people say, "Oh, well, you could just go vote on your lunch hour." Well, if I have to wait 3, 4, 5, 6 hours online, how am I going to vote during my lunch hour?
You can't.
Exactly.
So.
And that's the point. Voting should be easier to do. We shouldn't be making voting harder to do. No. Again, our most basic American right. Why do we make it harder?
Well, it prevents people from voting. That's why.
That's the problem. If you I don't necessarily like to quote Joe Biden on this, but he said, if you have the best ideas, why are you preventing people from voting?
Well, that's the whole
it's a great point.
It
should be about the ideas and the policies and that aspect of it. It shouldn't be, well, we're gonna close our voting polls at 5 o'clock so that the working man can't vote.
Well, I like most of HR 1 for the John Lewis Voting Rights Act.
Yeah, also should be passed.
Not every part of it, but most of it I like. So there's a couple of things I can live without, but I won't go into that. Anyway, so they haven't said where they're going to move the game yet. So that's another thing too. I mean, why not put it at Citi Field? We had one for Yankee Stadium, new Yankee Stadium, but we haven't had one at Citi Field yet, right? If I'm not mistaken. Am I mistaken? No,
I don't know, brother. Let me take a quick look.
No, I take that back. I think they did.
I thought they did have an All-Star game there.
I did. Yeah, you're right.
Pete Alonso's here, wasn't it? A couple of years ago.
Was it?
Pretty sure.
I forgot. I now I forgot. But yeah, I think they did. I take that back. But they haven't said where they're going to move it. Obviously, getting an All-Star game is a big deal. They usually give it out to stadiums that have been recently built. That's why it was being in Atlanta this year, because they built a new stadium in the suburbs of Atlanta, which no one ever talks about, the fact that they had a pretty new stadium in downtown Atlanta, built for the Olympics, and then the Braves just left it because their contract was up, and they got this really beautiful new stadium in the suburbs. And it's like, okay, screw you, Atlanta. Bye-bye.
Well, what we could have the All-Star game, brother, is the new well, not quite still new, but still fairly new and lovely Yankee Stadium.
Well, of course,
the new Yankee Stadium has not hosted an All-Star game.
Really? Okay, maybe I was confusing that. I thought they did.
No, they had the All-Star game in 2008. That was the final year of the old Yankee Stadium.
Okay.
But the new ballpark, I was going to say new and improved, but I don't think it's improved.
I'm surprised.
But the new ballpark has not played host to an All-Star game. That's
I'm surprised. I'm very surprised.
But there is a decent article I'm reading here from CBSSports.com by Mike Axisa, whose work I like, who suggested 6 possible sites for the All-Star game. And one of those was American Family Field in Milwaukee, which I have to say Milwaukee because nobody would know where American Family Field is. But obviously Hank Aaron played a significant part of his career with the Milwaukee Braves before the franchise moved to Atlanta. So what better, that would be just as good a place to honor Henry Aaron. It's a place where he spent about half his career. So, that would be a place.
That'd be a good choice. I think that'd be a good choice. I think that would be appropriate. Henry Aaron. is going to get remembered anyway, but it's always nice to have a proper ceremony.
Yeah, okay. To have that kind of connection, or you could use a Globe Life Field in Arlington. That's a brand spanking new ballpark,
right?
And they used that last year for the National League Championship Series and the World Series. So there's plenty of options.
Right. Good point. Anyway, you're listening to 90.3 WHPC, the voice of Nassau Community College. This is From the Press Box, here every Monday, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. It becomes a podcast later on Spotify, iHeartRadio, the iHeart app, I should say, among other places. And we're still doing our show remotely. Timmy's in Queens. I'm in Nassau County. And we're part of the WHPC Sports Talk family every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. And then there's an additional show every Tuesday night, 10 p.m. to midnight. Okay, brother, Francisco Lindor.
Lindor, brother.
No, yes. E-R-O-R.
He
did sign right before the season started.
Yes, he did.
10 years, $341 million.
It's a lot
which
of money.
is more than the final offer supposedly was, which was 10 years and $321 million. And $50 million of it is deferred. Now, they didn't say how it will be deferred or whatever.
He got one of those Bobby Bonilla deals, brother. He's probably going to be making about $2 million a year for 25 years or something like that.
Well, as long as there's no interest involved, I mean, that should be fair. I mean, but it's for tax purposes too. Personally, I would never sign for that much just for tax purposes. I would always have it deferred or do something, maybe you get stock in the company or something. But, especially if you were at the Garden, you worked for MSG, you get a stock option or something. But anyway, that's a great thing for the Mets, for Uncle Stevie, for Francisco. This is hopefully
a really great thing for Francisco.
Hopefully this is the beginning of something new for the Mets. And I think you sort of had to sign it. If you're going to come in as the new owner and make a splash, which he has, that you have to sign this player, especially after you get him. And if the deal has to be before the season starts, okay, did he spend an extra, $20 million or so? Yeah. But at that point, $20 million out of 341 isn't really that much, is it, brother?
Let's face it. It's only, and I say only in a relative term, it's only another $16 million. So when you're talking about a contract offer that was $325 million already, you're talking about a 5% bump. It really isn't. Again, in relative terms, it's not all that much. But here's where I thought the Mets did a good thing. And how many times have we ever said that with the Mets and negotiating?
Well, for you, yeah.
If you look at it a couple of ways. Number one, when for Cohen to say that 10 years, 325 was their final offer, I didn't think that was a smart thing to make public. Because no matter what, unless Lindor says, all right, we'll take your offer, you're going to look like you caved. And the Mets now look like they caved. But they didn't sign. Lindor's camp apparently wanted 12 years for $385. Now, for me, if I'm the Mets, those extra 2 years are the sticking point. I'll give you more money, but I don't want to go past 10 years. And if Francisco Lindor is still a productive major league player at age 37, then fine, I'm happy to pay him again and keep him around. But chances are a 37-year-old shortstop is going to be a fairly significantly diminished player who I don't want to be paying $34 or $35 million a year for. By the time Francisco Lindor is 37, he's probably going to be a player who's in the neighborhood of 280 batting average, 20 home runs, and 70 RBIs. And you don't want to be paying $35 million for that.
Right.
That's an $8 million ball player. Those numbers. 8, maybe 10.
Right.
But that is not, so that was my sticking point more than the money. The money is always going to be there. It's always going to be a negotiable term. So that part of it is what it is. It was always going to be at least $325 million. But for the Mets to not have to be obligated for those last 2 years that Lindor wanted, I think that was the victory for the Mets. Because Lindor is a great player. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I don't think he's one of the 5 best players in Major League Baseball. But is he one of the 20 best? Yeah, probably. But that for the Mets, the thing that the Mets needed to do here, both for their fan base and to show people that this is a new regime. You know, they traded for Lindor. Yes, that was the easy part. But signing him and making him the face of your franchise, that was what the Mets made this deal for. It wasn't just about acquiring a good player. It was, not only are we going to acquire this good player, but we are going to behave like a big market club, which is what we are and which is what we have never functioned as. But now we are a big market club. And going out and signing Francisco Lindor to one of the 5 biggest contracts in Major League history, that shows everybody. And this is a player who is worthy of that investment and that sort of trust, because this is a guy who is known around baseball not only as a great player but as a great person. He's somebody that you're not going to sit here in 2 years and hear all kinds of reports about, well, Francisco Lindor, he's been texting women and sending pictures, and he's not that guy. He's not Deshaun Watson allegedly arranging massages so he can get a happy ending. You know, that's the, everybody thought Deshaun Watson was this perfect person, and apparently he's not. And again, I'm saying allegedly because we don't know. Nothing has been decided yet, but there are a lot of cases going on against him. Francisco Lindor is a safe bet for the Mets, and especially because the Mets have had a lot of issues recently with Mickey Callaway, with Jared Porter, the GM, who was the GM for about 35 minutes before they found out what he had done in Arizona. So the Mets have had a couple of black eyes recently in terms of public relations and with the people who they've brought in who haven't necessarily been good people. So, they needed this positive story, and they need this guy to be the face of the franchise. This is a guy who he'll deal with the media. He'll be entertaining with the media. He'll be, always smiling, always positive. You need a guy like that in your clubhouse.
Well, he could be the new David Wright, and
he basically
David Wright,
is.
David Wright was, truly one of the great Mets. Just by the way he handled himself in the town, and if he had a few more really good seasons before the injuries took over, we'd be talking about Hall of Famer David Wright.
Absolutely.
Unfortunately, I mean, he'll probably get a retired number eventually for the Mets, but unfortunately, he won't be in the Hall of Fame, which is unfortunate. But yeah, I think if you're Jacob deGrom, I think when your contract comes up, and I think let's hope that he's still pitching the way he's pitching, that he's going to say, okay, I want some of that money too. So and he's very much the face of the franchise too.
Right.
That is something to look forward to, but we'll see what happens. I mean, he got a good contract. He's not poor.
He did. Here's the one thing with DeGrom's contract. People say, oh, Jacob deGrom is underpaid. Jacob deGrom is making something like $30 million this year. He's not underpaid. All right, let's get that. Could he be making a little bit more? Yes. Should he maybe have waited to sign his contract for waited another year or so before he signed his extension? Yeah, he probably should have. But people say, well, deGrom only got $137 million. Well, you know what? deGrom only signed for 5 years. So to say that Jacob deGrom is underpaid is a little ridiculous. Now,
I mean, and to be honest with you, Tim, I don't know if I was a baseball player, if I was I don't know if I want to be the highest paid player because of maybe the pressure that comes with it, how people judge money. they say, well, why aren't you playing good every single day and every single at bat? Well, yeah, you're trying. But, if you hit 30% in baseball, you're doing really well. So
I would love to be the highest paid player, brother. Really?
You'd want the bragging rights on that?
Give me the money.
I want the money, but give me $2 less. I don't care.
Yeah, but here's the other issue that people seem to forget with Jacob deGrom. In 2 months, Jacob deGrom will be 33 years old.
Right.
So he signed his extension, 2 years ago?
I think so, yeah.
So you're not going to give a guy who's over 30 a 10-year extension, especially a pitcher.
No,
I don't care how good he is.
Right.
So that's why the contract isn't one of these 10-year, 12-year, whatever. Jacob deGrom was already, quote unquote, old. When first of all, he was a late bloomer. He by the time he came up to the Mets, he was already in his late 20s. Or at least mid 20s, he came up in 2014. So he's already pitched 7 seasons for the Mets. And at 33, it means he came up when he was, or 32 came up when he was 25. He was, especially in today's game, he was a late bloomer.
Right.
So for the Mets to give him a 5-year extension, maybe they could have made it 6, but it was smart. Really, when it comes down to it, it's one of the few smart things that Brodie Van Wagenen did. Now, did he maybe screw over his old client? Because deGrom was a Van Wagenen guy. I don't know. Maybe he did. But that was his job as the GM at that point. So,
right.
And that was always going to be one of the things with Brodie was, he was going to be, guys he used to represent. He was now on the other side of the table. So he had to do what was best for the team. But again, let's not feel sorry for Jacob deGrom. The guy's got lottery money.
No. I don't feel sorry for him at all. I'm just saying he's probably thinking, well, maybe I could have got more years then. But it's different ownership. It's different. It's proving rights also. When you get a new owner, he wants to come in and make some proving points, and he has. And I think, Steve Cohen's done a great job so far. I don't understand the whole Chris Christie being on the board of directors, but that's a whole other story.
But anyway, you also have to remember, brother, I'll just make one point before we move on, that the contract situations in baseball have changed dramatically since deGrom signed. You got Garrett Cole with the 8 or maybe 9-year deal, probably a 9-year deal. You have Fernando Tatis signing a 14-year deal. Mookie Betts has signed a 10-year deal with a lot of these big long-term deals have come after the Jacob deGrom signing. So those weren't the bench plate for when he signed. Now they are. Now that's what players are striving for. Back when Jacob deGrom signed, 5 years was fine. So anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. Anyway, the Mets opener last week did not happen because several members of the Washington Nationals were tested for COVID. Now, Timmy and I were having a conversation yesterday about this, and I personally think, first of all, the Major League Baseball missed out an opportunity to make sure all their players were vaccinated before the season started. They should have went in, and even if they had to pay to get to head of the line, they should have made sure all their players were vaccinated for 2 reasons. First of all, to show the vaccine works, because some people a couple of weeks ago were saying, well, maybe it doesn't work. But second of all, it allows them to, not get COVID. And then they don't have to have the first weekend of baseball totally missed because some guys got COVID.
Well, let's put it this way, brother. First of all, the vaccine doesn't prevent you from getting COVID. It just basically lessens the impact of COVID.
Well, it's the same.
But it also has been shown to reduce the possibility of getting COVID. So
yeah,
the vaccines have shown a lot of positive signs. Let's start there. But for this to me is a massive black eye for Major League Baseball. Because, this was supposed to be the season of optimism, the season of hope, the season that we're past COVID and we can resume normal baseball season. And what happens even before the season starts, the Nationals have COVID. And while what's going on in Washington might not be as bad as what's going on with the Vancouver Canucks, which I don't know if you saw that story, brother, half of the Vancouver Canucks right now have COVID. So the Vancouver Canucks are not going to be playing a hockey game for a couple of weeks.
Wow.
All right. So that is a nightmare for the NHL. But for the Washington Nationals, to not play opening day because of this, and to they're talking about playing tomorrow. I think it is. I don't even remember who they're playing, but I think they're going to open their season tomorrow, which even still to me sounds too soon. But this is again what we keep, and we keep talking about this week after week. We keep talking about we're dealing with a virus that doesn't care if you're tired of dealing with the virus. All right, we all need to take precautions. We all need to wear masks. We all need to wash our hands. Even the dirty Trump supporters need to wash their hands. And you need to be smart about this. And I agree 100% with what you said about vaccines. The Major League Baseball should have done everything they can to talk to whatever government officials needed to be talked to say, hey, we need to get vaccines. And if that means doing news stories to show our players getting vaccinated, then fine, whatever we have to do. But the fact that they didn't take advantage of that when they had the chance, and really what they should have done is done it right as spring training started. Vaccinate everybody as they arrive into camp, and take care of that. And let the players, deal with a couple of days of maybe feeling bad and cancel a couple of spring training games if you have to. But then this way, everything's done. And, you in theory, you don't have to worry about it anymore for the rest of the season.
Right.
So that was a missed opportunity for sure. But, the Mets right now are suffering because they don't have any COVID cases. But because they were the team scheduled to play the Nationals, they have to wait to start their season, which supposedly is going to start tonight against the Phillies. And Jacob deGrom, still your opening day starter, brother. So I know some Philly fans who weren't real happy about that. They thought they were going to miss deGrom.
Well, think about it, brother. I mean, one of the places to get COVID shots where you got yours was at Citi Field. And, imagine you had a nice, press opportunity for the news. Hey, look, all the Mets today got their first shot. And their second shots in 3 weeks, or maybe they get the Johnson & Johnson one, which is, just one shot, or however you want to, plot this. But it would be a good publicity thing. And it would also show that, hey, we're serious about this. And I think Major League Baseball missed out tremendously on this. It sounds simple, and I'm sure it wouldn't be simple, but at the same time, let's call the right people and get this done. And especially now that everything's sort of opening up. I don't know if everyone of the Mets has been given their vaccination, but if they haven't, they should have, vaccination day at Shea Stadium. Here's the press opportunity, and let's get it going.
Yeah, but here's the problem with that, brother. And this is why I said do it before spring training started. A lot of people are having reactions, especially to the second shot, where they don't feel right for a day or two, those symptoms are subsiding within like 24 to 36 hours. But if you vaccinate all of your players on the same day during the season, well, what happens if 10 of them have symptoms or have reactions to the shot? And, that includes COVID symptoms where, you're having chills, you're having maybe a slight fever. Basically, you just feel like crap for a day or maybe 2 days. 10 players, let's say, what do you do? What do you do if Michael Conforto, Pete Alonso, Francisco Lindor, and Brandon Nimmo all call, the manager, Luis Rojas, to say, Skip, I feel like crap from the shot. I can't play today. I'm just going to stay home. That's why you can't do it during the season.
There's two things to do, brother. The Major League Baseball people say, okay, we're going to cancel a game or two. Or, as I said the other day, that's why you have the minor leagues, brother. Call up your minor league guys.
This, again, brother, my point was this is why you do it in spring training. Spring training things don't matter.
I agree. It should have been done in spring training, but it obviously wasn't. So, I don't know how many, I don't know the percentage of, not just the Mets and Yankees, but all of Major League Baseball who've had their vaccination shots. So that's just something to think about. Anyway, brother, the Yankees lost 2 out of 3 to Toronto. Not a good way to start the season, brother. What happened with your Yankees?
Yankees pitched well. They just didn't hit well. So the Yankees. Let's applaud the Yankees for just for playing, brother. just for being out there on the field.
Of course.
Let's start there. They did something that the Mets and the Nationals couldn't do. But the Yankees, they basically, like I said, pitched well. Garrett Cole pitched well in the opener. Just didn't hit. My man Gary Sanchez, home run in each of the first 2 games. That was nice to see. I don't know if the fans are ever going to be happy unless he hits a home run in every single game he plays, which obviously is impossible. But, nice start to the season for him. But, let's put it this way. Opening day, Aaron Judge did not play well. Grounded into a double play with the bases loaded when the Yankees could have taken a lead. Didn't make a good defensive play on the double by Randall Grichuk in the 10th inning. That gave the Blue Jays the go-ahead run. I didn't even know we were still doing that stupid rule. I hate that rule. If extra innings come, we put a man on second base. Can't stand the rule.
I thought that was only for spring training.
I thought it was only for last year. But that's the new rule apparently.
I hate that.
Hate the rule.
That's like a bad softball rule. Like exactly. We're all drunk and we want to get drunk more, so let's start the extra.
Yeah, so let's make sure the game ends in a hurry. Base. Right. Yeah. So I'm not a fan of that rule. On Saturday, Yankees win 5-3. El Gary hits a bomb. Jay Bruce with the 2-run single on his 34th birthday. Happy birthday to Jay Bruce.
Right.
Corey Kluber gets a start. Pitched pretty well. Didn't go very deep into the game. Didn't make it through 5, which obviously the Yankees will need to see him going deeper into the games. But only his first start, so I'm going to give him a pass on that because he's usually showed himself to be a durable guy and a bulldog kind of a guy. But early in the season, so pass for that. On Sunday, Domingo Germán did not pitch well, but again, the Yankees lose 3-1. Again, it turned into Domingo Germán, who had a great spring, gives up 3 runs in 3 innings, and then Michael King, the rookie, comes on and pitches 6 shutout innings of relief. Stellar. Absolutely stellar. But the Yankees couldn't hit. If you can't hit, you can't win.
6 innings is a long time.
Exactly, especially this early in the season. But Michael King was outstanding against the Blue Jays. So, if you get that kind of a relief effort, you should be winning games.
I agree.
And that was the issue for me is that when they got that kind of an effort from King, get some hits. Find a way to push some runs across the plate. Let's not let's not waste that kind of an outing.
Anyway, brother, we're coming towards the end of the show. We got to mention the New York Islanders are currently first place in the Eastern Division, or whatever corporate name they're calling it.
Yes.
They beat the Capitals 8-4. Barzal holds 2 assists. Man, this is what you want from Barzal at this time of the season. I truly believe, brother, that the Islanders are going to the Stanley Cup Finals this year.
Wow.
I'm very, very excited about this team. They've been playing better and better as the season's gone by. They've been playing really good at the Nassau Veterans Memorial Coliseum.
Hot take alert, bro. Hot take alert.
Yeah, so I'm very excited about this team. We'll see if anything happens. The trade line is next Monday, the 12th of April at 3 p.m. Today being April 5th, 2021.
Yes, so in the next week, by the time we do our next show, brother, chances are Lou Lamoriello will have made a trade.
Then again, you can do it afterwards because we seem to get
given our afterwards. Yes, that's a good point, brother. Given our luck, Lou will make the trade next Monday at 10:30.
Yeah, well, that's when they announce it because the sports writers are all too lazy to get up at 8 o'clock in the morning, so they have
that's so untrue, brother. But
they have to put it out at like 10 o'clock while they're drinking their coffee and eating their eggs.
So untrue, but there was a good story by Andrew Gross in Newsday, I believe it was in yesterday's paper,
right?
That the Islanders could wind up using Kiefer Bellows in a trade to bring in the impact forward that they need. You know, they're still looking for that replacement for Anders Lee, which obviously is a very difficult thing to.
Yeah, he's out for the season.
Yeah, with the ACL surgery. I personally, I think Bellows could be that player, but he definitely needs to improve defensively for that to happen. And the problem is that sort of improvement needs to happen immediately. But that kind of change in a player's game rarely happens overnight, brother. That's something that you need coaching, you need reminders, you need somebody really looking at you and molding your game and shaping your game. And especially in this season in the NHL, there's not nearly enough practice time to make those changes to Kiefer Bellows' game.
Right.
Kiefer Bellows is going to score in the NHL. There's no doubt about that. This kid he's a goal scorer, but chances are it's not going to be for the Islanders because they need to be able to sacrifice somebody, you know, as they say, brother, you got to give something to get something. And Kiefer Bellows may be the guy that they need to get rid of. And he's going to be a guy who's probably going to score 30 goals in the NHL in a season in the next couple of years. And Islander fans will probably moan, oh, we had this guy. Why didn't we keep him? Well, if you don't play defense, you're not going to play for Barry Trotz. The Islanders have had guys in recent years who can score goals. You know, that Hosang kid is another example. If you don't play defense, you're not going to get on the ice. And if you're not on the ice, you don't score goals. So, you know, play some defense. Get that part of your game right, and you'll be out there and you'll be able to score goals.
Right, and then, you know, it goes back to, like, the history of the Islanders. You know, defense always won their games. So,
Al Arbor, that was his mantra. And now we got Barry Trotz cutting very much of the same cloth as Al Arbor was.
That's true. Quickly, Kevin Durant for the Nets should be returning this week. He's been out for a while.
Longest hamstring strain in history, brother.
Yeah, and
6 weeks for a strain. You got to be kidding me. I don't know what's going on with the Nets.
At least he wasn't out partying, you know.
Head coach Steve Nash said that he should return this week. I'm taking Steve Nash at his word. I like Steve Nash.
Yeah, I do too. But at the same time, you know, the Nets are still favored to win, you know, maybe the whole thing in the NBA. But if not, they're going to have a good run. And the Knicks are playing 500 right now. They're definitely coming into the playoffs, and it's going to be fun. It'd be nice to see them both play each other in the playoffs. Be a nice little New York thing.
That might happen. We'll see, bro.
Yeah.
You know,
and one more thing, brother, because we only have about a minute left. You appeared on the podcast, called Bob Spur TV. What's
Spur TV?
Why didn't I know about this?
I did an appearance on. It was actually a really good show. It turned into something that we didn't really necessarily talk very much about Tottenham. But we talked about a lot of social issues around the game, including the media and the media's role, which is difficult for me to talk about, obviously, because I'm here in the United States as opposed to being in the UK, and the media works completely differently over there. But we also did a lot of talking about social issues in the game, and that's been a real problem. But I would say, you know, people should you know, maybe try to find some time to listen.
What's the
Bob Spur TV at YouTube? Just search BOBSPUR TV on YouTube, and you'll find it.
Okay, well, that just about does it, brother. Another great show. We'll be back next Monday, 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. This has been From the Press Box, and it'll be available as a podcast later on. Thanks to Sean Novat back in the studio for keeping us on the air. And coming up next at 10 o'clock, Big Ed Newlands with the Good Gold Show. I don't know how he does the show. He talks up songs, Tim, and I don't know how he's doing. He's just an amazing host of a show. So he
opens his mouth and the magic happens.
I will be keeping the radio station on, as I always do after our show, to listen to Big Ed, and I hope you do too.
Absolutely.
Take care, and bye-bye.